Hey guys, so I'm excited to be live. I just want to do a little bit of a test here to make sure my mic is on. So forgive me for not looking at you right now. I'm just trying to make sure that all is well in the hood. Okay. So I'm excited to start today. This is my little market update. Let's take that off. Okay, and so now you can really see me. I'm super excited that you guys decided to tune in. If you're watching this via recording, that's wonderful as well. This is something I'm really passionate about. I started this platform to bring up to date information from Wall Street Journal, Market Watch, and market forecasting to the Black and Brown community so that we can make better financial choices and be ahead of the jump when it comes to our career. Okay, so let's get started. And I'm just simply testing my mic. I'm hoping you guys can hear me. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and start. Okay, so today I'm just kind of going to, like I said, I'm going to go over the tips that I wanted to share for the January 2021 calendar year. So many changes are new on the market. So many things have come up. So it's a must that we discuss it, especially for those of you who are confused as to what exactly green tech is. You really need to stay tuned because we're going to cover that right now. Okay. Okay. So there's a quote that I like. I'm going to take my camera down for a minute so you can see it completely. Okay, so I think you guys can hear me now. Ashley, can you let me know if you can hear me? Cause it's like weird. My mic will mute. Anyway, I think I'm on. Okay, it's not on mute anymore. Okay, so we can't hear you. Uh-oh. So give me 1 second. Hello. Hello, hello, hello. Okay. It's saying that you guys can hear me now. Yes, we are good. Okay. So the reason why this is very important is because right now a lot of people are saying, "Oh, buy this and don't buy that." So we really need to get into what the market is saying because while I don't believe in market forecasting, you do need to understand things that are happening around the world around you. So terms you do need to know. Uh-oh. Everything is failing me. Okay. Terms you do need to know. You do need to know non-renewable energy. Non-renewable energy is a term that you're going to hear coming up quite a bit. So for those of you who say oil and gas, you're simply referring to the industry as it relates to fossil fuels and non-renewable energy. So that's a term you need to be familiar with because no matter what you read, you do need to keep up with that industry because that's one of the biggest industries. A lot of people where I'm from in Texas, that's something we need to know, right? So you need to understand those terms. That's what that means when you hear fossil fuels. And so I want to make sure you guys are aware of the terms because we're going to get a little bit deeper. And the next terminology you need to know and get friendly with is the term renewable energy. So you have non-renewables and you have renewables. Renewable energy is where the industry is going. This is what President Biden backs. And it is related to wind, solar farms, hydro, and green energy. Okay, so this is very important that we understand those terms because you'll see a lot of people talking about investing in green energy and why this is such a big deal. And the reason why energy is so monumental right now is because if you look at the market, when I went to school for engineering, I went to college in 2003. oil and gas was top dog. Fossil fuels was everything. And so we never thought we would see a day where energy, which is really expensive to get into, green energy, we thought, maybe 2040, 2050, people would start going into that. But due to technology, those advancements have come a lot quicker than we expected. And so now we're starting to see something very interesting happen on the market. We're starting to see energy companies compete with oil and gas companies at a pretty heavy level. And so if you were paying attention last October, Next Era, which is a green energy company, not only matched Exxon dollar for dollar, but they actually exceeded them. Okay. And so they are in the multi-billions now, just like Exxon. Okay. And so the green energy used to be something that nobody really worried about, but out of nowhere, it became a force to be reckoned with. So you need to make sure you are, maybe if you have stocks, I would highly recommend that you go the green route, and not completely abandon fossil fuels or non-renewables. But get more familiar with this, because this is the way the industry is going. For those of you who say, oh, I don't work in oil and gas, just like tech has impacted all industries, green energy will also impact other industries as well. And I'm going to get into why that can be a big factor for you. The king of 2021 and what Biden backs is that green energy. It is a force to be reckoned with. These are the green companies that you need to be on the lookout for. Iberdrola, Next Era, and Enel, Green Power. These companies are already pursuing multi-billion-dollar efforts. The energy industry is so aggressive because not only are they, that's the way to go for the future, but they are providing hundreds of jobs. So we're going to get into that a little bit later. But for those of you who are experiencing layoffs, it's probably because you're pivoting in the wrong market. This is the market where for the next few years to come, a lot of professionals are going to be compensated very well as they switch over to this. And again, just like tech, you have health tech, ed tech, just how tech has changed all industries, green energy will also change all industries as well. And so we're going to get a little bit deeper into that. Okay. So yes, they could easily dominate the green market. So one of the reasons why I don't want to count out the fossil fuels, oil and gas companies is because while the green companies are pretty hectic, they're pretty meaty, they're pretty big, you don't want to count out BP and Chevron. I put them at the top because BP and Chevron actually have new multi-billion-dollar ventures in green energy. And so someone asked me the other day, where do you go for financial advice or business advice? I am a hardcore believer that old school money, old wealth, Wall Street Journal, that typically is a conservative view. And so I'm always going to go to Wall Street Journal first because I feel it is Bible when it comes to business, especially big business. Financial Times is for the newer crowd. Financial Times is more liberal. And so with a liberal approach to money, you're going to lose a lot, right? But people like Warren Buffett, those old school heads who have been billionaires since before I was born, they understand the cycle of wealth, okay? And one thing you cannot do with these fossil fuel companies and these petroleum and crude oil, natural gas, TransCanada should be on this list. One of the things that people often mistake them for is, they're going to get crushed out of the market. No, this is old school money. They're not new to the game. They saw green energy coming up long time ago. Okay. And so we could easily see something where green energy goes up and then tanks, and then we see them go back to normal again and oil and gas is back on top. We don't know. And so the reason why I like to tell people to keep your portfolio diverse is because I read market, forecasts every day, but there's no person on this earth that can determine what's going to happen in 3 to 4 years on any given market. So you cannot, look at all these people that put money into Bitcoin, and then they had an article come out saying, is Bitcoin dead? So you have to be very careful taking everybody's advice, because once the time the information hits the mainstream, it's outdated. And so this information hasn't really hit the mainstream yet. So you might want to act on it now, because what you're going to find is in 2025 and 2030, if you invested a significant amount of money in both, you're going to come out pretty happy, because something's taking place with BP and Chevron. they're not going to go down without a fight. And so BP and Chevron have already began ventures in that area. So just be aware of that. For those of you who went through layoffs, you might want to look at BP and Chevron or any companies that subcontract or have contracts with them, because you'll probably find some really good opportunities there as they compete in the green market. Exxon and Shell have yet to announce their plan so far, but trust me, it's Shell and it's Exxon. Total and Texaco. No, Total also has plans in the green energy corridor, not corridor, the industry. I'm here in Houston, Texas, thinking of the energy corridor. So you need to make sure that you understand that it's not about putting all your stocks and your investments in one area. BP, Chevron, and Total have already announced, yeah, we're ready to play with the big boys. We already have technology. And then with all of these tech companies coming to Texas and Colorado and Delaware, we don't know where this is going to take us. We've heard Jeff Bezos say they have adventures, and Microsoft and Google, they're getting involved into oil and gas. And so please don't discount the fact that this is not a dying industry. They're just hitting a slump right now. Okay, so you might want to keep that in mind. Keep your portfolio very diverse. Do not put all your eggs in one basket. Okay, here's something that's very interesting for those of you who do not understand. So the energy layout and the plans for this year, if you're on the market looking for a job, here's what you need to make sure you understand. Chevron and Exxon, right? They did layoffs. I know Exxon has some huge layoffs here in Texas, but don't discount them just yet, because they still have plans to pursue green energy. So their projection as to what they're going to spend for the 2021 year, they originally said $16 billion at Chevron. They went down from $16 billion to $14. So that's a difference in $2 billion, but their original plan was $20 billion. And so stick with me, because I'm going to show you what I mean by not trusting market forecasts. And then ExxonMobil said, oh, we're going to do $23 billion in 2021. They're only showing now that they're willing to do $16 billion to $19 billion. And their initial plan, remember when I told you about market forecasting? They said they were going to do $33 billion by 2021. And so that, look at how low they just came in. And so one of the reasons I like to say this is because when you see these projections, that's just a projection based off of if no market conditions change. We've had coronavirus, which came out of nowhere. And 2020 should have taught us that you cannot depend on these market experts to tell you where to put all your eggs. You have to stay very alert, and you have to stay tied to the industry. Another reason for this lower, the reason why they're scaling back is because, let me say this, I want to make it very clear. Green energy is booming, but we don't know if it's a dying trend. So while it's booming, it's not very smart to put all your eggs in one basket on the market. If you are on the market looking for a job, I would tell you to entertain offers from energy companies, because they're willing to pay you right now. But don't discount that oil and gas experience, because that's what you're going to use to drive into that industry and ask for a lot of money. The cost of transitioning to green energy, I'm going to say this again, it is very expensive. And so I personally understand why Chevron and Exxon said, we're going to scale back a little bit. We're recovering from Corona. We're not going to go that hard. I don't blame them. And so remember, it goes back to that quote that Warren Buffett said, when you see everybody being greedy, pull back. When you see everybody pulling back, be greedy. Right now, if the biggest and the most wealthiest corporations are pulling back a little bit, what does that tell you to do? Right? Be greedy with that stock. They're pulling back a little bit. When wealthy people pull back, you might want to pay attention, because what tends to happen is we'll do the opposite, right? So I always like to see, what are some of the wealthiest people in the U.S. population doing? They're scaling back on their 2021 plans because the market is too unpredictable. Okay? And so that's something to keep in mind as you are thinking about a new career and investing, because nobody's safe right now. Texas is also not the place to run. And I don't say that because we don't have jobs, but I keep telling people the green energy could easily just turn into being something where they don't really need that many people, because everything is is running on its own. It's an automated system. They may not need as many people as oil and gas would have to hire all these people to ramp up on projects. They may not need that in the energy section. We may see a ramp down. We may see them stay primarily on the East Coast. There are no major energy companies here in Texas. So for those of you thinking, oh, run to Texas because all the tech companies are coming here. No, if you don't have some type of coding or type of degree in tech and you don't have a tech background and you didn't get hired by these companies, please don't come out here thinking that they're just going to open up the floodgates and just start randomly hiring people. When I talk to people who work at Google, people who work for Facebook in Austin, some of the people who are going to work for Tesla, they already put people in place there. Now they may be hiring here and there, but there will be no big market rush for Texas. So be very careful following this trend of everybody saying they're moving to Texas. If you're a billionaire, maybe yes, move to Texas. But if you are not a billionaire, I would highly recommend that you plan that out very carefully. So I wanted to say that. Another thing I wanted to bring up is the sustainability. If you're on the market right now and you don't really understand what sustainability is, you need to come to one of my master's classes, because this is what people care about, from oil and gas to health tech to ed tech to everything, retail, automotive, aviation. Every industry wants to know how you can add into their sustainability efforts, because that's what's going to get them tax cuts. That's what's going to keep them in regulatory compliance. And that's where everybody's money is going. How can we run green? How can we transition and be like Amazon and say, hey, we have a net zero goal? Being innovative. Talk about times in your corporation where you started a process or you cut down costs. Be very smart about what you're putting on your LinkedIn and on your resume, because no one cares. Oh, I'm responsible for reporting. I'm responsible for KPIs. Nobody cares. Most people care about what you can contribute on a problem-solving level, okay? And get away from title. 5 years ago, being a project manager meant something. Not right now. If you go type in project manager now, you will see all kinds of jobs hiring from $45,000 a year to $110,000 a year. So you have to learn how to lean into your skill set, not your title. I tell that to so many people because your skill set translates across all industries. Your title may not. A project manager in oil and gas is not the same as a project manager that works for Uber Eats or Walmart, okay? You got to be very careful with that. So be very careful with the words you use. If you want to know, well, how do I get in the mix? How do I get out there? You need to lean into your skill sets, your the things, the certifications you have, the processes you're used to. What kind of KPIs are you used to managing? What's your relationship with subcontractors? Talk to us about what you contribute to an organization. Get away from using these titles, even if you're a director or VP. I have so many people who come into my programs who are directors and VPs, and the way they did their resume is not resonating anymore, because you need to prove to us on paper why you're worth 300 and 400K. Okay. So get used to you leaning into your skill set. I cannot stress that enough. If you don't, it's going to be really hard for you to get even an interview. Another thing is, I put something on my Instagram to lure people to the live. And so one thing is Oracle leaves Silicon Valley. We do not know yet where some of their facilities will go. They will have another one, and along with their headquarters, but a lot of tech companies are leaving California because they're pissed off because California is not giving them their way, right? So a lot of them are going into other states. It is not just Texas. So listen to me. It's Colorado, it's Delaware, it's Minnesota, and Utah. A lot of companies are slated to go to those states because of the perks and the offerings that they have. So it's not just Texas. Another thing I want to stress is, for those of you in the Houston, Texas area, I know my aunt is one of these people. If you live in the Houston, Texas area, a lot of my family does. So if you are a part of my family and you're on here now, listen to me and hear me well. Pearland, Arcola, Fresno, Sugarland, any suburb on the outskirts, Katy, you need to start getting involved in your town halls or city hall meetings, because when these companies come and they start planning, when I was working in oil and gas and we wanted to run a pipeline, through somebody's property and we needed right of way, the first place we will go is outreach. Outreach goes to form a town hall and meet the people of that town, city, or neighborhood. Before we could run things through their property, we had to have an offering. And so sometimes we offered a substantial amount of money. Another thing is we offered perks. So say for instance, it was this lady in Cameron. I was in, it was a Cameron Access Pipeline project in Louisiana. She told us about her passion project. She writes books about how the rice community is. People grow rice there. People grow a lot of things. We ended up backing her for $2 million as a corporation because she came to the town hall. She was connected to an oil and gas company, and she was a figure in her community. And so because we wanted to have good public relations, we connected to this woman and connected to her brand. So I say that to say this: if you are an attorney, if you are a teacher, if you're anything in your community, you need to get involved in these town halls, because here's what's going to happen with Pearland or Arcola or Fresno or Missouri City. If they're trying to continue to expand and you see your home is in that path, or you see a piece of land you own is in that path, you can start to work a unique contract or negotiation with that company. Okay, I have seen this happen time and time again. In Texas and Louisiana, Kansas, Kentucky, and West Virginia, because that's where that Marcellus Shale opened up at. And we paid people a substantial amount of money. Now, here's the catch. For the people who were active in the town hall, not only did they get money, but they got a lot of perks such as stock options. We invested in their brands. We built playgrounds. We built, one of the ladies had a daycare facility running out of her home, and we offered to build her a brand new facility attached to the back piece of her home in West Virginia, because we want to look good. We want public relations. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, we don't know where Oracle is going. We don't know if Amazon is going to open up another facility. And if you are in line for that, it is very smart for you to become someone in your community that's connected, because the moment those people come in, you're going to be the first person they want to talk to. Hey, tell us what you have going on. Are you an attorney? Because maybe we could build some hours for our corporation through you. Maybe we can make a donation to something you're passionate about. If you have a nonprofit, maybe we can donate to that. And so please keep in mind to stay connected to those town halls, because I have seen people not only get connected and, get money for their nonprofit, but I have also seen people pay off their house. I've also seen people get a substantial amount of money up front for their businesses. Another instance is when Shell Oil ran into some type of, I think it was some type of algae that was extinct. For the people in that area, when I was on that White Sands project, they were paid a significant amount of money, and a lot of them had nonprofits that Shell Oil ended up donating to. Why? Because they always want to look good to the community for the sake of their shareholders and investors. Okay, and so please make sure you make a note of that. If you don't hear anything else I said, make sure you hear that, because it's pretty serious. And for those of you in Delaware, Colorado, and all those things as well, those other states I named, I don't remember. Okay, so Google, if you have stock in Google, it may wiggle a bit, simply because Google is facing racism issues, the sexual harassment. It's so many things going on at Google right now. I'm not quite sure what the plan is for the CEO for how he's going to respond. But remember, when you have a public image and it starts to tank, so does your investors, your shareholders, and people who tie themselves to the brand. So you're probably going to see it wiggle a bit. I wouldn't give it up. I'm just giving you a heads up. You might see it wiggle a bit. To my African American people and to my people in the brown community, in the Latin community, if you are looking for an opportunity to get your foot in the door at Google, now's the time. Because anytime corporations are being accused of being racist, you will notice that they will intentionally hire people of a certain color, or just start hiring a whole bunch of people of color to counteract that claim, to prove, no, look how diverse we are. So take advantage of that. Also, this is a good time to see what other type of business ventures Google is invested in, to see if you could become an investor in that as a woman of color, as a man of color, because they would be more open to bringing you to that table. And what that looks like, a few years ago, I worked for an oil and gas company. I started with Shell Oil. We had a project in Australia. Oops. Okay. We had a project come up in Australia, and because I was one of the only women of color in executive leadership, I asked them if they could let me know ahead of time of any companies they plan on buying out. And when they did, I was able to invest in a company for I'm sorry, oops. I was able to invest in a company at about $10 to $15,000, and that is one of the most lucrative business decisions I have ever made in my entire life. The more I watched my investment in that small company, the more I'm more secure and excited about retirement. Hopefully, I can retire at 40. And so I want to say, you can become a millionaire with unique offerings like this. So make sure when you see companies struggling with the diversity, exploit it. Okay. So, I mean, I'm just being a shark, exploit it. They need to have diversity. So pivot into that, not away from it. Somebody said, what is the best place to invest? Okay. So yeah, I recommend that if you don't do anything else, as you leave this today, maybe put some stock in your kid's name or your name just something for the family in the future. With green energy, we're going to see a significant increase as they pursue these multi-billion-dollar projects we have never seen before at record rates. Another company I would say is worth investing in is BP and Total. So for the simple fact that they are really showing some really good planning for going green, and they are really maintaining that number one spot that they have in their industry. So somebody keeps calling me, so stop calling me, whoever that is. I don't know if you're on here. Stop. So the thing I wanted to say is make sure you are investing in green, and also still keep some money in fossil fuels, because if we find out that this green energy is too new and it can't progress really fast, what's going to happen is everybody's going to make a hard switch back to fossil fuels, and you're going to see those stocks skyrocket. Okay, so just make sure you keep it divvied up amongst the two. Remember, non-renewable and renewable is the buzzword of the day. Those are the markets you want to keep an eye on, and maybe make sure you're investing in, because that's going to determine where all of the money in the world pretty much goes, because green energy rules everything. So that's all I think I have for today. Do you guys have any questions? Sorry. If you don't have any questions, I think that's all I had. If you want to go back and look at everything we just talked about, please feel free to do it. I'm going to leave the video up. If you have questions, I'll try my best to come back in the comments and answer. It really means a lot to me when you guys tune in, and this platform means the world to me, because like I said, we don't have wealth conversations in our community often. And sometimes when you hear about things, it's too late to invest in it. So I'm giving you a very, very early heads up. So for those of you who might have questions about my leadership program, for any career, leadership development that you need, or if you're trying to revamp your LinkedIn or resume, please drop me a line below and I will connect you with a link to the master's class. I might just put the link in here later. So thank you so much for being on, and God bless.